special edition of the Economic Times Conversations, where we bring you face to face with the visionaries shaping India's business and legal landscape. Today, it is an absolute privilege to host a woman whose name is synonymous with corporate law in India and whose voice carries immense weight in both boardrooms and policy circles. Joining us is Ms. Zia Mody. She's the founder and managing partner of AZB Partners, one of India's most respected law firms. Tracing back, she's a Harvard Law School graduate and a former associate at Baker McKenzie in New York. Ms. Mody brought global legal excellence to Indian shores at a time when few were doing so. She has since been instrumental in shaping the legal architecture of modern corporate India, from billion-dollar M&A deals to precedent-setting governance frameworks. Daughter of the legendary jurist Soli Sorabji, she brings to her practice not just the rigor of law, but the legacy of principled advocacy. A fierce advocate for legal reform, diversity in the profession, and ethical lawyering, she remains a mentor and role model to generations of lawyers. Ms. Modi, thank you so much for joining us today. It is an honor to have you with us.
My pleasure, Monica.
So, can you tell us? I wanted to know how has the government policies on ease of doing business, particularly decriminalizing of penal provisions in Companies Act and taxation, strengthened India Inc.'s confidence.
Not only India Inc., but also FDI, right?
Yeah,
Fair
yeah,
use of
indeed.
business is also that.
Yes, yes.
So I think over the last 5 years, government has really put its foot forward in making sure that for every single small mistake or offense, you don't have jail. Because the minute you read jail, everybody goes into a tizzy.
Yeah.
And therefore, the decriminalization of penal offenses is a excellent and very welcome move. And they continue to do it. It's not as if the exercise is over. The other thing I think that the government has done is clearly wanted to open up many sectors which were earlier sensitive. Insurance has gone to 100% now.
Yes, FDI.
Defense has opened up before, more than before. In today's papers, they're looking at private investment into nuclear. You had the holy cow of banks. That has gone up to 74%. So real estate has really eased out. So step by step over the years. Today, if you would ask me as a corporate lawyer, there are very few sectors in which there is an absolute ban or there is express prior government approval allowed. So India, from a foreigner's point of view, has become largely automatic, right? Then you look at the activity. Today, the geopolitical world for the last 5 years has kind of benefited India.
Yes.
China has today not been as exciting for many investors. We have been the partial beneficiary of that.
Yeah.
There are some funds which are being raised, which are Asia funds, which have a much larger allocation to India than China.
Yes.
Much larger allocation to India as to compared before.
As compared to China. As compared before, yeah.
That's right. Then you have AI, venture capital funds, all looking for the next unicorn, IPOs happening, people are making money, interest, the rupee rate is not too bad, it's not going too much up and down, it's stable, inflation is being controlled, and we have very sensible regulators who are openly coming out and saying, we don't want to over-regulate. If you look at the SEBI chairman, he's on record to say, let's review what we have and let's see how we can make things better or lighter. You look at our new RBI gov, he's pretty much saying the same thing. Let's take stock before we do anything. You look at our finance minister, she is constantly saying, I don't want micromanagement. I want people to be able to invest. All this is building up investor confidence, right?
Yeah.
So I would say much progress. As a lawyer, can I ever say enough progress? Never. There are still pain points. But the good part is that if you go to a regulator and say, I have this pain point, he's now listening or she's now listening. Earlier it was, it's okay. But now when you actually go and give an honest point of view, they may not agree, but they will hear you. And it will not be just a tick the box hearing. They will want to understand whether what you're saying, they can take the benefit of quarter of it, half of it, 75% of it, none of it. So I think that's what has changed. Our regulatory interface has become much better. You take the Competition Commission. I mean, they are willing to have conversations with you before you go for a filing, which are very honest. And at least your client knows what they can expect.
Yes.
Now you have the Competition Commission, which is clearing things faster than ever before.
Yes.
They have figured out what they call killer acquisitions. They now have regulations for killer acquisitions. But they're looking at the rest of the world, and why shouldn't we also be playing with the rest of the world? So for lawyers, it's very exciting times, frankly, because there are things which are opening up, there are things which are developing, and sometimes regulation goes backwards, but not so often. And even when it goes backwards, the regulator is willing to hear about it.
So that is the Indian perspective. So, a company coming from the US, from foreign shows, they still have this perception that, there is over-regulation. Of course, that is easing the red tape.
There is over-regulation. That is why everyone's saying it should be eased.
So, M&A, you have been a ace M&A lawyer. So you advise some of India's biggest M&A deals. What trends are you observing in, deal structuring post 2020?
I think there are, if you talk about domestic M&As, it is either people wanting to consolidate by buying into the same industries, steel, cement, hospitals, etc., etc. And strategics, basically, more. Then you have the private equity funds from abroad, which have billions of dry powder, all of which who are seeing markets which have scale and size today as mainly Japan and India. Auctions are great for the seller. Everyone has to keep bidding one over the other.
Yes.
We've seen some good M&A large matters where sometimes PEs win even over strategics on price. Sometimes people prefer to go to with strategics because they feel they will pay the price. So it's, and then sometimes people say, it's too much of a headache dealing with these strategics, I'll just go IPO. And then they have the liquidity of the market as their
Yes.
So you see promoters who don't have definitive succession plan. They look at PE to take over and professionalize. You see family disputes which have to get resolved in an amicable manner for the good of the group. Those are happening in a nice way for most of them. So it's a flurry of activity, Monica, across all sectors. You look at cap markets, even though the Nifty is down, you're still seeing people go to market.
Yes.
Private equity, even though you have the geopolitical issues, India, Pakistan, Sindoor, etc. I would say, yes, there is more caution. There is a slight pause. But have I heard anyone say, oh, I'm just not going to invest in India for the next 1 year? No.
No.
We remain attractive. We remain investable. We have a market that is a consumer-driven, middle-class, uprising market. We have a very sensible set of governors, of SEBI chairman, of, our capital markets are regulated well. So I think all in all, we are in pretty good shape. I would be optimistic.
You spoke of PE, private equity and VC, and the PE exits have slowed post IPO cool offs in India. So, what structures are you seeing to emerge, protect downside, or enable liquidity in this environment?
So, PEs are selling to PEs, which is a very good. You now take it, I'll take the next one or whatever. But what we do have is there is still a lot of thought process in the
Mm-hmm.
private equity guys
Mm-hmm.
as to whether they still can take the company IPO in control positions.
Mm-hmm.
What the change we have seen is that earlier, maybe 15 years ago, most private equity guys were happy with 10 to 15 to 20%. They didn't want to be in the controlling seat. There is a huge mind shift now in the private equity boys, which
Yes.
basically say, we like control. We can drive the destiny
Mm-hmm.
and then work with the promoters to get to the right value and the right outcome.
Yes.
And, the private equity guys use their global connects to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that their Indian investee companies, their targets, get the benefit of what they've seen around the world. So you buy a
Okay.
packaging unit here, you will see if there's a global opportunity. You
Yes.
buy a
Yeah.
hospital here, they will see if there's a
Mm-hmm.
global opportunity. So they are also wanting India to integrate in
Mm-hmm.
as much of a global capacity as they can,
Yes. Uh-huh.
because it drives value up for everybody, right?
Mm-hmm. So, coming back to M&A, I wanted to ask you sector-wise M&A, renewable, what is the interest of the West in renewable energy? The corporate misgovernance in the recent Gensol case, if you have followed, um, how does it
So
affect the industry in total?
there's been corporate problems in every sector.
Yeah,
That doesn't make renewables unattractive. What it will do is just not for renewables. Renewables, by the way, is one of the hottest sectors even
yes,
today.
yes. Yeah,
And that is because everybody wants a piece of renewables,
yeah.
right? So if you look at private equity funds, they can't stop getting enough of it. If you
Mm-hmm.
look at some foreigners who had non-renewable assets,
Mm-hmm.
they want to sell those. So there are buyers for that
Uh-huh.
also.
Yes.
The domestic players are interested in both types. They have different
Mm-hmm.
verticals for renewables, different verticals for non-renewables. They get a different set of investors in each vertical.
Yeah.
So I would say hospitality, hospitals,
Mm-hmm.
healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
financial services,
Mm-hmm.
real estate.
Yeah.
These are all evergreen sectors. Data centers,
Did
global capability centers. We
uh-huh.
see one a week being announced. India has become the talent pool for global capability centers.
Mm-hmm.
States competing with one another to
Yes.
get them. And then we see corridors. We see Taiwan suddenly finding a huge interest in India,
Yes.
Korea looking at
Mm-hmm.
India much more,
Mm-hmm.
Japan rekindling its interest in India. So even the corridors have become more active.
So you're saying India is the hottest place now for investment, and people are looking at in a very positive lens.
I would say that we are a hot place, not the hottest.
Okay.
But I see that as a combination of us having the demography we have, the policies which the government has liberalized, uh, the uh, the scale at which a PE investor in a target can reach,
Mm-hmm.
and a capital markets
Mm-hmm.
area which is flourishing. So you can take your targets to IPO and you can have liquidity. And then you have the option of selling down whenever you want to, right? The world is in your hand.
So the sentiments were there 5 years, 10 years back, a decade, half of
I
the
think
decade.
heightened because people have more money to invest. So there's just more money. They've
Okay.
raised
Mhm.
funds.
Uh-huh.
And India has proved that it is giving back good exits. Ultimately, the proof is in the
Yeah.
pudding.
Yes, exactly. The exits. So, you spoke of CCI Competition Commission, so with the rising scrutiny by CCI post digital competition bill proposals, how would you structure a tech M&A deal between two dominant players in the Indian market?
It may be tough.
Hmm.
You would have to prove that the M&A transaction has components which
Hmm.
would not have an appreciable adverse effect,
Mhm.
right? Then you have a special section which has come in on killer acquisitions,
Mhm.
where if a global company wants to buy an Indian company, company
Mm-hmm.
for, $10-15 million,
Mm-hmm.
there will be criteria to see that you're not
Mm-hmm.
buying something cheap, which can later be a killer acquisition. But the CCI has also introduced a deal value threshold for the first time
Yes,
a few
yes,
months
yes,
ago,
yes. Huh, huh.
which is 2,000 crores, which is not much. It's about $250
Mm-hmm.
million. I think that also is not going to be too malignant, because I think what the CCI is thinking is that come to us, we'll clear it. For the investors, they're saying, what a hassle to keep going to the CCI. I think the balance is somewhere in between. I think there will be, a meeting of minds to a more sensible sort of approach. But if you ask me, would I say that it's a painful exercise? I don't think so. They are pragmatic, the officers talk, they give their views, clients understand. And once you get clarity, I think that is the best thing. Whether it's good, bad, or ugly, it's clear. What is the worst is you don't know which way to go. So that is what we expect.
So, what's your view on the rising use of, Spack, that is special purpose acquisition company, like structures in India via Gift City? Any regulatory red flags or structuring concerns you anticipate?
I don't know. I think more has to unfold. As you know, the Spack phenomenon in America died down. We have to see if the Gift City can produce something which is interesting. Just one or two won't make it happen. It'll have to be a sort of a phenomenon where it's tried and tested and it works. And it works because there's better withholding tax, or there's, you're not in India, but how much of FEMA will apply or not apply, etc., etc. I think you'll have to see 3 or 4 happen.
So, you don't see much of any regulatory red flags here there, all green flags.
No, that I don't know.
Okay.
There'll have to be, some that actually face the pain points, iron them out, see how it works. There are certainly green shoots of every possible activity in Gift City, because it is something which the government really wants to promote. I know that we did, for example, the first trainer aircraft acquisition for Air India out of Gift City. So that was a first. But, there has to be numbers. And I think that the government push is definitely there. But people have to see a definite advantage of being in Gift City.
Yes.
And that I think will take another 2-3 years.
That's a long haul. So talking about, coming back to M&A, the US Fed's rate cycle has dampened global capital inflows into emerging markets. So what innovative deal structuring have you seen to keep inbound M&A alive in India?
I think anything much has changed in the sense that you see convertible preference shares which have a coupon. The conversion rate is something which can be managed in compliance with FEMA pricing. I think that there are ratchets which can be looked at. We don't have liquidation preference yet, so that's not something that it gets imported into India. But the ability to swap shares is now easier. Companies domiciled abroad wanting to re-domicile in India to get the benefit of the market has become much better. It's called reverse merger.
Yes, yes.
The entire process, which was long and painful, is much shortened. RBI is taking a very practical view of a lot of things and being facilitative. So I think that, again, work in progress, but in the right direction.
So, talking of the US and everything, the Trump tariffs, what are your views on it? It has will it impact heavily on the Indian economy?
We will have to see what the final tariffs are, right?
Yes.
They're ever changing.
Yeah.
But, I think that they will.
There has been a rollback, I believe. A rollback of some tariffs. Yeah.
We need to know ultimately where it settles. I think that every country is rightly wanting to conclude its bilateral agreement, trade agreement with the US, which is what Trump wants.
Yeah.
So let's see where we settle. I think India is very always been very pragmatic, very practical. Certainly sees the US as a great trade partner. Wouldn't want to rock the boat unnecessarily, but also wants to keep its sovereignty intact.
Yeah, and also have you read about the recent, UK India FTA, which is so what do you
That's
think?
also reasonable. I
Yeah,
don't think it's
yeah.
a problem. Again, the fights are about very small things, Harley Davidson motorcycles and wine and food, and it's the big things that matter.
Yeah, yeah, it's a billion-dollar deal and it's going to benefit everyone. So, talking of M&A structures, I wanted to know the ESG and CBM, how what is the increasing role in the due diligence in the M&A transaction? Have you seen it materially affect deal flow or valuations?
It's pretty much become part of the diligence list. The
Mm-hmm.
questionnaire, if you're subject to ESG as a list go, then definitely compliance. If you are not, then what do the CSR and other obligations being required? Are you fulfilling them? I still think that India Inc. has to embrace ESG conceptually and spiritually more. I think they are doing what they have to do, but all the E, the S, and the G. I think probably the G is the more developed one because everybody's been screaming and shouting about that for so long. So it's finally penetrated the DNA.
Yes.
I think the other E and the S have to work themselves out.
Wanted to talk to you about, the function. I mean, just diverting from the topic of M&E. India is pegging itself, to be the arbitration hub, the global arbitration hub in tune with SIAC in Hong Kong, Dubai arbitration. So, where do you see India in arbitration? Do you see India in the next 5 years being as good as SIAC? I mean, or where are the loopholes?
I think SIAC has got such a dominant share right now and is such a natural go-to choice right now.
Yes.
That between SIAC and LCI, I think that if you have a foreign party in one of your transactions, they would rather arbitrate outside anybody's home country, which drives you away from India. Now, if you want to have an arbitration hub which is of that level and of that scale,
yes,
you need to make sure that the arbitration is run tightly. It is run within an acceptable time frame such that the award gets done and dusted. And by the way, SIAC already has an Indian operation. So
yes.
they are saying, no problem. You can have your seat in India or you can have your venue in India. We'll run it efficiently. We're SIAC. So we are not just competing with SIAC in Singapore. We are competing with SIAC in India. Now, for that, we need to attract global arbitrators.
Yes.
We need to basically have counterparties which are responsible and don't keep litigating every award and just settle if you have to. I think the problem with with arbitration in general is wherever the award is, ultimately you have to come to enforce it in India against an India counterparty. That's where the delay of the system has to address itself.
So, do you see mediation as an apt substitute for arbitration?
Mediation is never a substitute unless parties want to settle. You can never force mediation on anyone. Mediation can be a very sensible way to start if parties are sensible.
Yes.
And they are not using mediation to waste time, saying we'll mediate for 6 months and we'll go to arbitrate. That's the wrong mindset. If you're coming into the room saying, yeah, let's just not fight this out, let's just figure it out and let's mediate, then you have to accept both the parties that you're going to be unhappy. No mediation is going to have one victor, right? Otherwise, there's no mediation.
Yes, yes. So recently, Supreme Court allowed the court's power to modify the arbitral award. How do you see this judgment, strengthening the business confidence in India?
Difficult.
Difficult. Why would you say that?
Because somebody who's not agreed to arbitration, if they're suddenly being plucked into an arbitration. I mean, I haven't read the full ramifications of the judgment. I'm sure the Supreme Court had its reasoning. But it should not be that I am not part of your dispute. I have no arbitration. But suddenly I find myself part. Now, if you're part of the same group, that's already the case in Cloro. So that law is already there. But to have, someone who's not submitted to arbitration. What is arbitration? Two parties agree to be outside the court process.
Yes, yes.
And the key is the agreement. And the Supreme Court is saying, you shall agree. So we'll have to see.
So what are your thoughts on tribunals, NCLAT, and how they're functioning? I mean, Supreme Court has really rebuked them for understaffed and overworked and
But
not.
how is it their fault if they're understaffed?
And I mean, of course, the decision, even the rulings are not up to the mark.
Now, every ruling can't be not up to the mark. I think the problem is, it's a tricky one because you need the infrastructure
Yes.
to expand. That the poor government is trying to do. Is it doing it fast enough? It's definitely trying. But I think it needs to double its members. I think it needs to open many more centers. Because you can't keep traveling to 4 metros or 7 metros to get this. So I think their heart is in the right place. But I think first to get the infrastructure, then to appoint the members, then to see that the members have the proper training. You can't take somebody who's never done a commercial dispute and expect him to start disposing of matters in 1 hour. He's learning and he wants to do justice. That's where the National Academy for Training Judges comes into play, which is a good job. But again, that needs more people.
Yeah, even arbitration needs in order to become the hub of arbitration.
Yeah, today, if you look at global economies, you have an arbitration bar and an arbitration bench. People who just do arbitration. Here, very few are only doing arbitration. There's not enough, maybe.
Ex-judges and, not...
No, that is as arbitrators.
Arbitrators, arbitrators.
Counsel who are appearing, right? They are doing morning court, evening arbitration because there's not enough arbitration to keep them busy 365 days of the year. So once you develop a good arbitration bar, I think necessarily your arbitration seat concept will become better.
So IBC has been criticized a lot, talking of NCLAT, IBC, they also deal with IBC. So now an overhaul of IBC is happening. We have seen a lot of changes over the years. So what is your thought on IBC?
I think IBC has generally done a great job. I mean, if you look at what was before IBC, you were waiting for 20 years. Now IBC has put the fear of God into the promoters that if you don't pay back your debt, the company will just be taken away from you. Has it achieved a better borrower lending mindset? Yes, 100%. Will there be aberrations? Of course. Does the law have to be constantly defined? Of course. If you look at, the JSW matter, has it set the cat amongst the pigeons? Of course. Will it shake a bit of confidence in the IBC system? Most likely, until that dust settles and, things get sorted out properly. But as a concept, has IBC done well? I think it has.
It has, but many have said it has failed in many aspects.
Then let them go and file a suit for 20 years.
Yeah. The intent was right, but I think
even the outcomes have been good. You take away the aberrations, of which there have been. But by and large, when a company gets sold and there's a resolution plan and there's a bidder and he's whitewashed for the past, what is the problem? Why do we look at only the black spots?
So coming to you, you're the a very prominent woman in the legal landscape in India. And so despite progress, law remains a very male dominated at a very senior level. So what structural shifts are still needed to level the playing field?
Men have to promote women and women have to promote themselves. There's no other way, right? You need male champions. We need women to stay passionate about their career and not give up when they get married or have their first child, to stay with the cause. You should tell us your story.
How may it be? What is the ratio? Do you
So
really?
we have over 35% of our partners are women. That is the key. Not the first crop of associates or the second year associates. They come and they go. But how much have stayed on for partnership? That is 35% plus, which is a great number for us. And we do that by basically making sure that, myself, I've been a woman, I've gone through a marriage, I've gone through 3 daughters. So I understand the pain points. And therefore, my male partners understand the pain points. Because they also today have daughters and they've seen their wives' careers. I think there's a much better general understanding of what is it ultimately, retention of talent.
Yes.
That's us.
But that is just, your law firm, why just in law firms, partners, even in judiciary, you don't see many women judges. You don't see many litigation lawyers. The ratio there is a lot more.
It's tougher.
Yes.
It's tougher as a woman litigator. I used to litigate earlier. It was tougher. There's a general bias that men can argue better, that men are taken more seriously than women in court. I think that if you make your mark and you're relentless about making your mark, I think at least when I used to argue in the Bombay High Court, my judges always supported me. I never felt let down. They always heard me patiently. They never barked at.
Maybe because you were the daughter of Soli Soramji, India's
be.
most revered constitutional minds.
Could be, but it's not as if they barked at other women either. It's just that there were fewer women that could stay the course in court. When it comes to corporate M&A, it's easier. You're not dancing every day from 11 to 5 to the judge's requests. You're not fielding questions you weren't prepared for. You're not being told that your best argument is complete nonsense and you have to go to the next one. So, it's easier to be in control of your life in a non-litigious environment.
And advisory and,
Yeah, being a counsel is one of the toughest things. It's the elite.
So, what part of your father's legacy do you carry into your boardroom negotiations or deal-making approach?
I would say integrity, fairness, not being blind to your own clients' weak spots and problems, not being scared to tell your client what his weak spots and problems are, and gaining the trust of your clients that even if it's unpleasant, it is what you genuinely think is good for them. They can then make whatever commercial call they want. But your duty as a counsel, which my father was to present the correct picture to the court. He always used to tell me, you are an officer of the court first. You then represent the client.
If I could put it this way, you are a Nepo kid, but nepotism exists in Indian judiciary and that is not seen in a very good light.
But why nepotism? What is nepotism?
Nepotism in judiciary is there.
What nepotism? What do you mean by nepotism?
Judiciary, ma'am, not to do with, judges, uncle syndrome.
No. Yeah, all of you guys want to just take some examples and make it, all sensational. I have complete faith in my judiciary as a lawyer. And are there bad apples? Could be. In which area of practice are not bad apples? But does that take away from the fact that who has held the democratic institution of our country as well, as strongly, as vociferously as our judiciary? No one. Who has pronounced Keshavananda Bharati, the judiciary? Who insists on the collegium, our judiciary? Today, the common man's faith is in the judiciary. So why do we say nepotism and just brush them aside with one? It's very wrong.
No, ma'am, in so many decades, there's just one Zia Mody. I mean, we haven't seen many Zia Modys.
But you will,
Yes, hopefully, yeah.
and you'll see great women judges, and they'll continue to
In
be
corporate
great.
side,
Yeah,
yeah,
but it's not that there can't be. It's just that I've been
mm,
at it for 40 years.
yes. But you're
Others will
very good
come.
at it. Uh,
Yeah, but at a cost, right?
mhm, yeah. At a cost of losing time with your family. Yes. Mm. So how did you strike the balance?
I didn't.
You didn't. So you had three daughters. How did you juggle and
I don't think that they think I did very well. I did had a great mother-in-law who was with me day and night and gave me great support. I have a husband who is completely secure and accepts my craziness, which my mother always says, "Who would marry you?" So I've found the husband who decided to stay with me. But it's tough because you're first of all fighting barriers because of your gender, just natural,
Mhm.
subconscious
Yeah.
one. Then you have to overcompensate to get to that level playing field, if you
Mhm.
can. Then you have to stay the course when life is against you, your career
Mhm.
rise and your family and your
Mhm.
body clashes at the same time.
Mhm.
The childbearing years and your career years are
Yes, yes,
clashing.
yes. Yeah, yeah.
And you have to still overcome that and try and move forward. So, is it easy? It's not easy.
Yes, it's not easy. Women from maybe the lower to the top, it's never easy. So, how do you, personally stay intellectually very sharp in an industry that demands constant reinvention?
I have partners who challenge me all the time. I have clients that want nuanced advice on
Mm-hmm.
whether to do a large deal or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great sense of responsibility to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you're completely current, that you have a
Mm-hmm.
read of the situation, that you have a sense of the regulatory
Yes,
views.
yes.
It's hard work even today.
Yeah, it's ever changing every day. You see 10 CV circulars in a week, and there's so
Don't
much
say
to
every
keep
day,
and up
that
to
will be
date.
terrifying, but yeah, often enough.
Yes, yes, yes. So, how do you, do you envision a time when courts or arbitration panels will rely on algorithmic legal interpretation?
I don't know how that's going to play out. I don't know how AI is going to play out.
Yes, Jenny.
Definitely, every law firm is looking to adopt
Uh-huh,
AI,
uh-huh,
but to what extent will it be just a first check? To what extent will the young lawyers still know they have to do the work and not
mhm,
just have be a post
mhm,
box? To what extent will it have to be refined all
mhm,
the time?
mhm,
I think a lot of high courts are still very digitized and doing
mhm.
well.
Yes, yes, yes.
But AI, maybe, I don't know how judgments can be generated from AI. Who knows? I don't know.
So, have you been using a Gen AI?
We are demoing to
Mhm.
the to AI client companies, and we have a AI group which is looking at which demo is better, and then we will adopt.
Ma'am, I invited you in an event on June 12th, the Microsoft event.
I
You
don't think
won't
I
be in
um,
country. So the plan is still there. You won't be in country.
I'm
Okay.
celebrating my husband's 70th birthday out of it.
Wow, that's great. That's great, ma'am. Anything you want to say? Any special message you want to convey to the
No, I think that
audience?
message is really to the women.
Mm-hmm.
Stay strong, be passionate. Don't
Yes.
let the small disappointments of the week or the month get you down.
Mm-hmm.
Come back strong. Understand that it's something you have to do more than what your male counterpart would have to do. But in the end of the day, if you are passionate and you love what you do, you will succeed.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ms. Modi, it was an absolute privilege to speak with you today. Your insights, Your knowledge, your about the evolving legal landscape, leadership, and the role of law in shaping business have been incredibly enriching. On behalf of ET Legal World, I thank you for sharing your time, your wisdom, and your vision. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Monica. More than welcome.